Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. Matt and I are going to talk about some crazy transfer portal stories today. But first, I'm sure Matt wants to talk about his Indiana Hoosiers who have just clinched a berth in the national championship. Matt, how are you feeling this morning?
Incredibly tired. I can't lie. I
No,
am not used.
same.
I am not used to staying up past 11 o'clock to see stuff like this, but it was nice. Man, I did not expect that. That's like the second game in a row where I think I could say that. Like I thought they could beat Alabama. I mean, Alabama, good team. Don't get me wrong, but they had flaws. Oregon was a team they'd already played once. They did win that one, obviously. But Oregon, with Dan Lanning and all their talent and all that stuff, I thought for sure that this is like, Oregon can win this game, firstly. And number two, if Indiana wins, it's going to be like a sweat it out, hold your head high regardless of the outcome, like 1 point game. And, well, it wasn't. And that was really surprising to me. But when you get the first play is like a pick six, and then everything seems to go right, even when you're up like 35-7, you keep thinking, you keep waiting for something to go wrong because it's like, okay, this is too weird. This game wasn't supposed to be that way. I know Oregon has like no running backs, which was a weird feature of the game, but everyone's overcorrecting on whether or not Indiana's good from last week. So it's like, okay, things are just going a little too positively right now. So it's like Oregon goes on that little run where they get the 70-yard run and they get the touchdown fairly easily. And it's like, oh my God, the choke is on, the choke is on. And the choke wasn't on. I just like to overreact to things because I'm not used to it. And I still remember, like, let's see, every Colts season for the last 12 years. Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7. The Reds getting no hit by Roy Halladay. Where else? What else could I mention here? It's like, okay, this isn't going to go well, and then it just kind of ended, and it's past 11. But yeah, it's exciting. I never thought this scenario would even be in play, and now it's like, regardless of what happens, a week and 3 days from now, Indiana is like the first or second best college football team by ranking in the standings in the country. It's just bizarre. There's no other word for it. But I will say, and this is actually playing into something I see on the screen right now, I'm begging people to pump the freaking brakes here, okay? We just need to all take a little breather because I love the Indiana team is fun. I love them. I love Signetti. I love Mendoza. They're not 2019 LSU. Everybody calm the F down here. There is no Jamar Chase. There is no Justin Jefferson. There is no great second. Well, you know what I mean. The secondary is not the same. There's no Joe Burr. Indiana is
Joe
good.
Brrr.
He had to do it. He had to do it for the ski mask guy.
I
But
had to
everybody
do
just
it.
pump the brakes a little bit here. This is a very good team, but that 2019 LSU team, I'm pretty sure if they looked at you the wrong way, they'd get a touchdown. So let's just, take a deep breath and appreciate two very good things for what they are instead of trying to be like, oh yeah, Indiana could definitely beat LSU. It's like, I watched every game in that 2019 LSU team was must watch TV, especially on offense. And it's even the guys you don't think about like Moss and Edwards-Helaire who were going to like make a huge difference in the game, who made big differences in those games. So it's like, everybody pump the brakes here. We can enjoy Indiana doing what they're doing and not be like, oh well, they're better than 2019 LSU, because that was it feels like a different sport, honestly, compared to where we are now. But that LSU team was just, that's the best football team I think I've ever seen. Maybe period. Even at the even going to pro level, the way they just like handled business.
Ultimately, I do agree with you. Of course, I got to play to the narrative. It's a lot of fun to talk about right now. When that narrative first started at the beginning of the year, you and I were on the show, and I would have said absolutely not. There's no way. We're not about to compare this Indiana team to LSU. What I will say though is that as we advance in the college football playoff, is that I do think Indiana is closing the gap of maybe where I thought 2019 LSU was in
That's
2025
what I was gonna say.
Indiana. They're closing the gap because of how they're handling business and beating these very good teams. But at the end of the day, people forget that that 2019 LSU team played seven top 10 teams
Yep,
and kicked the
and made
living
them all
shit
look
out of all of
silly.
them. And I think this Indiana team is a great story. I think they will deserve a conversation in some of the best teams ever because of what they were able to do, how they were able to beat these teams, and the most important feature I think about this Indiana team is that they have no five-star recruits
That's true.
and able to do that. And this will be considered one of the greatest coaching jobs, if not the greatest coaching job by Coach Signetti. But when I look at some of the all-time great teams, like obviously 2019 LSU, 1995 Nebraska. If you're a regular on this show, you know what I'm about to say that I'm not necessarily sold on the 2001 Miami hype. But again, they did have the most one of the most impressive stats you'll ever hear in college football is that if their offense didn't score a touchdown all year, they'd still have gone 8-4. I
Which
got to
is
give
incredible.
that is incredible. I take nothing away from
Incredible.
that. But I actually think Indiana might have a better argument against 2001 Miami. And the reason I say that, it all goes back to why I think 2001 Miami is overrated. And that's because they didn't play anybody. They didn't play a top 10 team till the bowl game. They played what during the regular season, I think one or two ranked teams all year. I think, and that's why ultimately I come down to I don't buy the whole 2019 LSU versus 2025 Indiana because LSU played a much tougher schedule. Even
And it was
before,
done 4 times.
yes. It, and that was before the college football playoff. And then of course they get in the college football playoff and they leave no doubt. And the team they
Yeah.
beat in the national championship team is a team that was trying to go back to back. A team that had already been there and done that before. Had
Hmm.
one of the best quarterback prospects that we've seen in recent memory, or at least that's what they were saying. And
Well, he's had a good year this year. So
no, he's had a great year this year, and no, I'm still a Trevor Lawrence advocate. And Trevor Lawrence, as much as we want to debate of, has he lived up to the pro hype, he was a fantastic college quarterback. There's no taking away from that.
yeah,
But no, I think it's fun. I do think it's more fun to talk about now. But at the end of the day, Indiana still has to win the national championship
yeah.
before we can even really put them in that conversation with 2019 LSU. I think people
And
are trying to.
Miami, yeah, and Miami's playing incredibly well right now. I don't think they're going to be prone to the same mistakes that Oregon was yesterday. So I think that game, everyone calling that like a 3 touchdown game, I think is being a little premature to say the least because I know people don't trust Mario Cristobal as a coach, but the way they're playing on the lines has just been incredibly impressive, and they aren't making a lot of mistakes. So I don't think people are thinking this game is going to be a blowout of any kind are giving Miami enough credit here. They've won 3 straight games, one on the road, one against Ohio State, and one against Ole Miss. They were all like intense, epic struggles. So they're battle tested. They've got great defensive line. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a good running game. People, I think, who think this is just going to be a blowout are just deluding themselves, to be honest. But like I said earlier, the fact that regardless of what happens, Indiana is the first or second best college football team in the land this season is just how do we even get here? It's not all I can think about. It's tearing apart the very fabric of society, but
There's so
somehow it
many
has.
things about narratives heading into the college football national championship that play into narratives that we've said on this show. As I talked about on this show, that Kurt Yeti is playing dynasty mode in real time. Like he's hopping on EA Sports College Football 25 or 26, which one you still have, and he's hopping on dynasty mode and he's taking over a program. It's like, oh, hey, y'all want to go to the championship in 2 years? And here we are. And not to mention, with Miami, I said on this show when Mario Cristobal was hired, I said give him 3 years and you're going to see Miami turn around. And of course, year three with Mario Cristobal, that's when we saw Cam Ward. That's when we saw them have the number one offense in college football. And it's like, okay, are they going to turn the corner? And now here we are in year four. They're playing in the national championship game. And we've been asking this question for probably a good part of what, 20 years now? Is the U going to be back? And now here they are playing in the national championship game. I feel like we've been asking if the U's back longer than we've been asking if Texas is back. And wouldn't you know it, they're in the national championship game and we haven't been.
Yeah. Well, it does. Don't feel too bad about that because the entire SEC has been shut out. So there's another narrative we could really dissect with. Is it over for the SEC? Which it's not. Everybody pump the brakes again.
Hmm.
This everyone's trying to feel their way through this new era of football, which is
But
why we
as
always talk. You want to do
ironically
it?
enough, ironically enough, this plays into, as we get into the main topic of this show and the transfer portal, this talks about another narrative that we have stressed ad nauseum and how the transfer portal NIL was not going to benefit the big teams only. They are going to add parity to college football, and that is exactly what we're seeing right now. The SEC dominated the college football national championship for years. Now we're seeing that 3 straight years, they're not even in the national championship game because other teams are able to build rosters to compete now. So
And even
bringing,
oh, sorry.
no, you go ahead.
Well, that's another thing I've been seeing a lot lately too. It's just like Indiana, Miami. I'm trying to think who else they got dragged into that. There's this feeling, and it is coming from the SEC, and this is one thing I will criticize them for, because to me this signifies the failure to adapt. Is it like constant accusations for like the teams that like aren't like old powers getting in? Is that they're all mercenary teams who have like ancient players who, and that's the only reason why they win. It's like I get it, but I don't. Why can Indiana and Miami and various other teams, Texas Tech, that was the other one. Why can those teams do it, but you're telling me Alabama, Georgia, etc. can't? They can't go out and be like, hey, we're going to go out and get some guys on the portal who have like 4 years of or 4 years, 3 years of experience, put them out there. I mean, you're Alabama, you can do that. And
Right.
they lament that like the days of like having a roster full of 5 stars are over. And it's like, I do get it. It was tradition, but this is 2025. Things are getting six. I mean, things are getting like different. You have to adapt. And the thing is, especially now that you make money at two levels of football, maybe three if you go to a school that lets you get money in high school, which is happening slowly and steadily as well. Uh, these guys who are 5 stars aren't going to want to sit for like 3 years and hopefully get like a shot to play when they're a senior and maybe get a little cash. You got to follow the money. You got to do it, and either you incentivize like developing players by still giving them NIL at some level, or you just let them go. I mean, there's no other way to say it. But like, I think what we're losing here too is like you can get all the transfers. It's like basketball, but not as bad. But there will be an example of this sometime in the near future. I guarantee it. Where there's a team who just goes all in on the portal, gets everybody, and then just falls right on their face. Like you can't say that even about like Penn State. They got banged up, they got injured. Drew Aller got hurt, yada yada. But there's going to be a team like we may talk about here in a minute or two that goes into the portal, gets everybody they could ever dream of, and then just goes like 5-7. You got to have coaching. You've got to have coaching. You've got to have a guy with a strategy, with a plan, like you said, a franchise mode, who knows who he wants and can turn like those veteran guys into a cohesive unit, or otherwise you've just got a bunch of stars.
Absolutely. As we talk about Indiana playing for the national championship on Monday, January 19th, I said this on the social media pages, and I'm going to get your opinion on that. Indiana's trying to win the national championship, but well, the way they're hitting the portal, it's like they're already trying to go back to back. So, from
Oh
what
yeah.
you've seen from Indiana's transfer portal class, how are you feeling about it?
I mean, what's there to complain about? We knew that this was going to be like a there were going to be a lot of guys leaving. This was the year. Like next season, strangely enough, has become like the prove it year in some ways. And you lose Mendoza, you're losing Surratt, you're losing this, that, and the other guy. And what I'm seeing is what Signetti always does, which is going out and getting like these battle tested, like production over potential. I think is what they keep calling it. And I'm seeing that again. I mean, you go out, you've got 10 guys coming in right now. Lord knows what this weekend's going to look like because they've got some guys on campus today. And after what happened last night, that's going to be interesting. But I mean, the defensive line has been anchored by seniors, especially. But you've gone out and you've got Burnham from Notre Dame. You've gotten the two guys from Penn State. You got a guy from Tulsa who weighs like 300 pounds, who's been like an impressive guy for them. So you're building back what you think you're going to lose, and you're building it with guys who have like production. The dudes at Penn State are like their two best pass rushers by a good margin. This guy at Notre Dame, Burnham, had one of the most athletic interceptions I think I've ever seen in that game when they played against Stanford. And Joe Higel, the guy they're getting from Tulsa, has played incredibly well too. And you're going to have a lot of departures in the running back room. They've already got Turbo. I can't get his name right.
Turbo
Turbo
Richard.
Richmond. Turbo Richmond from Boston College. Kobe Martin, who played actually for about a quarter last night, played pretty well toward the end of the game, is going to be back. And then you've got like a third spot where you have like I forget his name off the top of my head. I'm just so tired. There was a guy who got hurt earlier in this year who may come back. You've got you could get that. I think they're interested in an actual former Texas guy and C.J. Baxter, who may be coming. So they're going out and they're getting guys who have like a lot of production, a lot of experience, because that's just what Signetti does. And Josh Hoover, that's the interesting thing to me because I know a lot of people. I've actually seen people not be as high as on him, but it's like Signetti turned Curtis Rourke into an 11-win quarterback in the Big Ten. He's turned Fernando Mendoza into at worst, national runner-up, Heisman Trophy winning Big Ten champion quarterback, most likely going to be the first pick in the draft. I'm going to defer to Signetti and his staff on that one. If this kid's really good, he's going to shine. I mean, he's got impressive stats coming in. And to benefit him, they've got Nick Marsh, Charlie Becker's coming back. They've got LeVar Bond. He's a freshman. But I mean, it's very clear what they're doing. They can have more money now. They have more prestige worldwide, so they can get like some better guys out of the portal. But they're going after high production guys at positions where the most veterans are leaving. And that's just what Signetti does. And it'll be interesting to see. They've only got 10 guys right now. Like I said, there's probably going to be a bunch on campus. They really covet a linebacker from Colorado State. There's a safety from Toledo who they're coveting. There are guys that they covet that if they get them, it could get scary because I know we've talked a lot about like the veteranness of Indiana, but they've still got guys coming back too who are pretty damn good. And if you can mix in these high production like 1 or 2 years left type dudes and coached Hoover the way you've coached the last two quarterbacks, they'll be right there. I don't. The schedule is okay next year. There are a couple. I know they've got Ohio State at home. That's going to be interesting. They've got some games at Michigan. That could be interesting. I like Kyle Whittingham a lot. But it's going to be interesting because they're just doing what they always do, which is going out, getting production over potential, and seeing what they can get out of it. And I think that's going to be the MO. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Mark Cuban money and the Kurt Signetti mindset play with one another because you can go get those high potential guys, but you could also just, do what you've been doing, maybe get a couple guys cheaper. So that's what I'm noticing with Indiana's portal class is that it's more of the same, just at a slightly higher level. Instead of getting guys from, I don't even want to besmirch James Madison here. Instead of getting guys from like, I'm trying to think of school, Appalachian State, you're pirating guys from Kansas State and Michigan State. That's the only difference.
So the players change, but the game still stays the same for the Indiana Hoosiers. And here's my thing. And it's interesting that you bring up that there's people that have doubts about how Josh Hoover would perform in this Indiana offense. Here's my thing on that. I don't know how you can watch the season that Fernando Mendoza just had and watch the play calling that has made him successful this year, how Indiana has been very dependent on RPOs. That's when Josh Hoover's at his best. So when I watch Josh Hoover at TCU and how successful he is running an RPO system, and then I look at Indiana and the offense that they ran this year and how an RPO system pretty much gave Fernando Mendoza the Heisman, like this is a perfect fit. This is the perfect guy to replace Fernando Mendoza. Will he have this dream season that Fernando Mendoza is having? Yet to be determined. But anyways, but given what we've seen and given how Indiana runs their offense, this seems like a perfect fit. And another
It does.
guy that I that you didn't mention that I'm actually high on in Indiana's portal class is safety Preston Zachman from Wisconsin. Guy just seems like a real energy guy, enforcer at the back line of the defense. So I think it's going to be a good fit. But
I thought you
overall,
were going to tell me. No, sorry.
no, what were you
I
going
thought
to
you
say?
were. I thought you were really excited about Billy Gowers, the 30-year-old sophomore punter.
No.
I am intrigued by that one because he's the best punter according to like the college equivalent to Pro Football Focus. So I'm excited to see that. I want to watch it, dude. I want to watch a 30-year-old punt the ball in the middle of a snowstorm in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm excited for that.
He's going to pin him deep and then hit the little golf putt like Pat McAfee used to do.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be taught that. Yes.
But as we get into some more portal news, of course, Penn State and Oklahoma State are doing exactly what we said they were going to do. They're pretty
Yeah.
much reloading with Iowa. Penn State is basically becoming Iowa State 2.0, and Oklahoma State is becoming North Texas 2.0. LSU is making some noise as of recently. They got 16 commits. They're the number two portal class right now, and they're making some noise. As much as I hate to say it, because I thought it would have been hilarious if Ole Miss was able to win the national championship without Lane Kiffin.
It
But
would
now
have.
Lane Kiffin is gaining some momentum. Of course, a guy that I'm high on, Ty Benefield, safety out of Boise State. I think that was a huge move. Eugene Wilson from Florida, I think, is a good move for them.
I
Um,
really like that one too.
is there
Yeah.
Trey Brown from Old Dominion? I mean, I've seen him just play a few times, and what I've seen, they loaded up at wide receiver. But of course, go figure. I mean, it's LSU. They have the brand of wide receiver U. They have the brand of DBU. Um, I'd like to see them add maybe a little bit more line play, but so far so good for the Tigers.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the line thing because the thing is, like, I really like everyone they've gotten that's been like for an offensive weapon, but you also got to have some other dudes too, because there's only one football. There's only one football. Like when they got Josh Jackson from McNeese, who was one of the higher ranked FBS guys, I was kind of like, okay, LSU, what are you doing here? Why do you need like seven wide receivers? But I love how they're trying like to get as offensively insane as they can. But at the same time, it's like, okay, we got to get some offensive linemen in here. We got to get some good offensive linemen. They've taken care of their special teams, and frankly, I don't know how many guys have left. I think they've had like 30 guys leave,
30,
which
yeah.
is to be expected. But it's like it seems like they replaced like those 30 guys at all positions with like 15 wide receivers. So I would really like to see them get more on like the. I know they've got a couple defensive line recruits. I'd like to see them get more. They've addressed the special teams. They've addressed even like their tight end. So it's very interesting. I really do think LSU is going to be poised to have some fairly good success in their first year, just because that offense is going to be so damn explosive. Much like we've been talking about, they are a wide receiver university. I said a, not the, before everyone comes at me in the comments. A, not the. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they come up with, like with Lane Kiffin in that offense.
Here's another thing that really impresses me is that Arizona State currently has the fifth rated transfer portal class. And what is impressive about this is anytime you lose one of the bigger names in the transfer portal, but yet you now have one of the top classes. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
replaced Sam Levitt with Cutter Boley and, a backup from Michigan and Mickey Keene. I shouldn't even say backup. He might have been third string. But it's impressive because, I mean, when you're losing one of the top players in the portal and then you're still able to bring in a top portal class, at least early, it's like, what is Arizona State doing right now?
I think it's all Kenny Dillingham. I think the fact that he's staying and he's proved that he's been consistent, regardless of whoever he's got at the quarterback, and the loyalty goes a little bit of a long way, kind of like Signetti. I mean, you got a guy where you know you're going to have stability and a chance to win. But I will say that them losing, and you're going to love this, that them losing Raleek Brown is probably one of the bigger departures because that dude is sneaky, sneaky good. Of course, he was. The reason I say Les is happy is because he's moved on to Texas. But I think if you would have gotten Cutter Boley, Rayleigh Brown to play with, then it would have been even. It would obviously be even more impressive because that guy is very sneaky good. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with people believing in Dillingham. Oh, people believing in Dillingham and his ability to coach, and the fact that the Big 12 as a conference is still kind of like a Wild West where you do have people emerging like Texas Tech and BYU and Arizona State, but there's no clear dominant power yet. It's still a wide open territory. It's an arms race right now. And when you have an arms race going on for like the future of your conference, it's easier to like to give money to bigger recruits, especially when you see like Texas Tech bought like half the portal already. And they've got the best quarterback in the portal. And this, that, and the other thing. So I think it's partly that too. You've got to, if you're Arizona State, you've got a great young coach, and you've got kind of a conference where you've got emerging powers, but no one's fully dominant yet, or hasn't really seized it yet, like it used to be with like Texas and Oklahoma. You got to do everything in your power to try and seize it, so that way you can have sustained success.
And I promise, Matt, I was gonna hold off on this, but since you brought up my Texas Longhorns, I got to talk about them real quick because
Go ahead, hit it.
no, because it's funny because I compare our off season to having a similar identity to our regular season. Is that the fact that we can't enter with so much hype, and then by some standards we underachieve, but then you take a look back and it's like, oh, this is actually a pretty good team. Well, that's what I'm looking at this portal class so far. When we hit the ground running, when we bring in Will Muschamp as the defensive coordinator, we bring in Jabbar Jalouk as the running back coach. Blake Gideon comes back as the secondaries coach, and we're like, okay, we're going all in on the coaching staff. We're about to hit the portal hard, and of course, we're throwing names out there like Isaac Brown. Well, of course, he goes back to Louisville. Cam Coleman, he still has yet to make his decision, but it's been wishy-washy of where he's going to go. But then within the last couple days, like you mentioned, Raleek Brown commits to Texas, and he reminds me a lot of a running back we used to have in Jaden Blue, except he doesn't have the fumble issues that Jaden Blue had. So if
That's
he
true.
so if he can produce like Jaden Blue without turning the ball over, without giving the ball back to the other team, that's going to be very valuable. But of course, the two biggest areas of need that we really needed to hit in the portal, of course, are linebacker and offensive line. Well, yesterday we got the first bit of those two incoming transfers. We have Oregon State inside offensive lineman Dylan Sikorsky, and then the big one that I'm actually very high on, is Florida State linebacker Justin Cryer. Florida State fans have been on Texas beat writing pages commenting about us landing Justin Cryer, and all of them are saying, we're absolutely going to love this guy because he just goes out there, he gets the job done. He's not a top end talent guy, but he's a locker room and a culture guy. And those are and where this stands out to me is those are the guys that Will Muschamp banks on. Will Muschamp is very different from Pete Kwiatkowski in the sense that Pete Kwiatkowski was more of a schematics and play calling defensive coordinator and of the type to develop your fundamentals and improve overall as a player. Whereas Will Muschamp is more of an energy and effort and culture minded defensive coordinator. Like he's going to get the most out of what he's got. So bringing in these culture guys like a Justin Cryer, that's what's really standing out to me. Of course, now the one thing too is that Texas for back-to-back years in the portal is loading up on the defensive line. I mean, they're loading up to the points like you wouldn't think that they would have any issues on that side of the ball, but of course they kind of underachieved last year. But now they're doing the same thing. Now Zion Williams from LSU came in. Ian Jaffrard from Arkansas came in. So it's like they're loading up, and now they have about 10 guys on the depth chart just for defensive line. And it's like, all right, at some point we got to produce on that because I had very high expectations for that Texas defensive line this year, as both you and Ryan know.
Mhm.
And when you know it, our front seven didn't look that good. But or sorry, let me reword that. And wouldn't you know it, Tech's front seven performed like I thought Texas's front seven would. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, Texas, I think they're quietly having a pretty productive portal. up to this point. It's tough when you lose 22 people already, but
I actually saw 25 because I was originally when I had notes and like thought I was going to be awake for this episode. Was going to ask you about that because like Texas has like 25 guys leaving,
mhm.
and it's like I know none of these dudes. Well, not none of these dudes. I was going to ask you. It's like I know Texas isn't flailing, but is this like this is one of those examples I think of what I was talking about earlier, where it's like if you're a 5-star guy and you're approaching like year 3, you want to go somewhere and start. But Texas, on the other hand, knows you've got what probably one more year with Arch Manning, who's starting to blossom into who we thought he could be. So you need to surround him with as much talent as possible while you've got him, and just see how far that goes. And I think that's what they're doing,
Mhm.
or at least that's what it appears like they're doing for me. Even though
Yeah.
it seems like they're focused on the defense, you've given him. Texas is always going to have weapons. You gave him a really reliable running back, and now you're trying to give him a defense that actually pressures enough to make them to give him better field positions than they had last year. And like if he continues to develop, which I think he will, you really want to take advantage of that because you very rarely get to develop a guy like that in today's game.
And I think people are going to be disappointed whether or not Texas lands Cam Coleman or not. But at the end of the day, Texas has been recruiting the wide receiver room pretty well the last several years. I mean, they have guys on the roster right now. Should Texas not land Cam Coleman, I think they're going to be fine. Wingo, um, if he can clean up the drops, is a very dangerous wide receiver. Emmett Mosley, when he actually got in and was healthy, was a very productive target. Khalil Lockett showed us something in the bowl game. We got a freshman coming in this year that's drawing Xavier Worthy comps and Jermaine Bishop. So I mean, Texas has dudes.
And
So
if you do get Cam Coleman, may
it,
God help us all.
there we go. Exactly. I mean but yeah, I want Texas fans to not freak out if we don't land Cam Coleman because Texas has plenty of weapons. The main things that Texas needs to focus on is offensive line, linebackers, and maybe adding a little bit of running back depth. That's it. If they do that, it's a successful portal.
I think that's a very fair assessment, and I think either way they're going to at least have they're going to have a good portal. Now, whether or not it's epic, that's for the fans to decide. And
You'll
Lord knows,
like this. You'll like this, Matthew. You'll love this one.
uh-oh.
So, speaking of Cam Coleman, so he's the top wide receiver in the portal right now. Texas is linked to him. If Texas fans, do you all remember a couple years ago when there was another wide receiver in the portal that was number one, that was linked to Texas, and he did not go to Texas? I'm talking about Deion Burks. But Texas
I know where this is going.
signed a couple of receivers that kind of went under the radar, and I think it worked out pretty well. And if you don't know who I'm talking about Silas Bolden. There we go, Matt. We're
Here
about
it
to unleash the
comes.
reins right now.
Here it
But the
comes.
other one just so happens to be the first wide receiver that Green Bay drafted in the first round in over 20 years in Matthew Golden. So if that tells you anything, this Texas coaching staff knows what they're looking for. Even if they don't come out and get the big sexy name, just trust that they have done their job in evaluating talent because they might be pulling some recruit up from the ashes, some prospect up from the ashes that is going to fit well with this system.
Which is all you can hope for.
That's all you can hope for.
South Carolina quietly having a decent portal too. I saw during the game last night they get Nitro Tuggle from Purdue, a dude I've always liked. So that's interesting. And I've seen them linked to a couple other guys too. So SEC's trying here. They're trying to. They realized that I think they realized after like this playoff, this bowl season, that it's time to reassert yourself a little bit, even if you're one of the smaller teams. And in addition to that, Shane Beamer knows after what happened last year, he's coaching for his job. He's got to know that.
Oh,
So you
100%.
you got to get everybody you can in to tech. Sellers is coming back, right? My brain has fogged this morning.
As of right now, yes.
Sellers is coming back. You're playing for your job. You got to get him as much help as you can. and so that way you don't blow like the 31-0 lead to Texas A&M. So yeah, that's a sneaky good portal class to me too. I don't know why I felt like saying that now. Probably because Nitro Tuggle was like my Matthew Golden of this year, so I'm gonna see how that goes. I'm gonna roll with that and see how it ends up.
We have some epic names in the portal. Turbo Richard, Nitro.
He's a good player. I think when he gets outside of West Lafayette, he's going to tear things up even in the SEC.
Speaking of West Lafayette, I gotta say, I actually think Jarrett Gibson is gonna do really well for Purdue.
I think he will too. The problem is, I think Purdue got an offensive. I think they basically did a trade. They got an offensive lineman from South Carolina to go with like their running back to go with him from Texas, and then Nitro Tuggle goes into South Carolina. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Purdue does here because you're just in a very unenviable spot. Barry Odom, we like him a lot. We liked him at UNLV. We liked him kind of at Missouri. But now it's kind of like you're in a very unenviable position of being in a Big Ten that seemingly makes better and better coaching decisions every offseason. To the point where now it's like, okay, well, Pat Fitzgerald's in Pat Fitzgerald's up in Michigan State. They were bad last year. They're probably not going to be bad anymore. Northwestern's got in a bunch of transfers and has Chip Kelly running the offense. That's probably a recipe to be better than you were. So it's kind of like, okay, if you're Purdue, you're kind of in an untenable position of like your biggest rival has all of a sudden become good at football, and the other bad teams from this year have made really good decisions and are having pretty good portal classes. So it's like, okay, what do you do? What do you do?
What do you
How
do?
do you salvage it? Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because we got about 2 minutes left. But as always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel to get the latest updates we have on content coming out. Be sure to follow the social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. That's at Less is More Sports. And we got about 2 minutes left to go. So, is there anything else you want to touch down? Oh, Cal is top 10 in the portal right now. That's interesting.
Well, that was the thing too. That's probably what helped Indiana too. Is that Oregon's two coordinators have had to play like quadruple duty over the last week and a half with Stein in Kentucky. Really sneaky good class for him. And Justin at I can't think of his last name. Justin at Cal, he's going to be really good too. But the one thing I did want to ask you is if you're getting the same vibe I get here in the last minute. Louisville has basically written a blank check. They've got Trey Richardson. They're keeping Isaac Brown. They're signing guys left and right. Are you getting what I'm getting from this, which is, hey, Jeff Brom, you've got an ultimatum.
Yeah.
This is you. If you can't do it with this team, we may need to reconsider our relationship. You already almost walked out twice. We gave you what you wanted. This is your ultimatum. You've got the number 3 or 2, depending on U.S. class in the portal. You've got a crap ton of offensive weapons now. You better win. There is no more Miller Moss. You better teach Lincoln Kleinholz how to be the next, I don't know, whoever you want to insert here. But I thought it's an ultimatum.
No, 100%. And the crazy part is they're outbidding Texas. They outbidded Texas for Isaac Brown, and they outbidded Texas for Trey Richardson. So, no,
Which
Louisville's spending that money right now.
this is an ultimatum. This is an ultimatum if you're Jeff Brom. Much like Shane Beamer, I think you know this you either win now or your damaged relationship is never healing.
And they're stealing Kentucky players, so that's you got to love that for the rivalry.
That's the power of Vince Morrow and Jeff and Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, baby. He
And
apparently
we
loves that place.
and we called that.